Norway, for example, has as a maximum sentence not even life in prison, but a prison sentence equal to the sentenced age, the current age of the criminal. Yet it does not see the massive murder rates some suggest execution would prevent. These questions remain unsolved, so it does not bode well for us to allow the use of a death penalty system in the meantime. In review, we see that deterrence cannot rightly be named a reason for having a death penalty because there are no statistics to support it, and non-scientific arguments, philosophy, have failed. Deterrence continues to be referred to, however, because without it, there is only vengeance as a motive for execution, an element that's simply not fit for legislation in a stable, democratic society. Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you, witness. Mr. Kirakakis, we appreciate you talking about the facts that you've presented a very good argument to convince the court that maybe the court's prior position that this was a deterrent is in fact it wasn't correct, and the court appreciates the witness bringing that to light. The court would like to state for the record a parable that she's heard many times. I'm getting our other two witnesses. We'll have two more witnesses, but in the meantime, I would just like to relate a little tale for our witnesses that the court has heard many times in reference to our system of punishment. And it's an Aesop fable. Maybe you might have heard it. There's a family of pigeons, a nest of pigeons that every day has to fly out of their pigeon nest to get food, and they're terrorized by the hawk that lives in the tree above their nest. And this happens, and they're living in fear of the hawk every day when they go out to get food and then they come back. And so the pigeons get together and they say, well, maybe we could talk the hawk into coming and being our king, and that way he won't eat us anymore, won't terrorize us. And so they do that, and the hawk says, well, you're going to have to pay a price for me to be your king, so that I don't, as your king, and in exchange for that, as your king, I will stop terrorizing you and chasing you, trying to eat you as you go gather food every day. And so they agreed that he would get whatever he wanted, and he became... So the court would like to ask the prisoner at this time if there's anything he would like to say about the conditions that the state of Texas is holding him in as he awaits his lethal injection.
Hello, Judge. My name is Human. I'm one of the 400 death row inmates in Texas waiting for execution. And also I'm one of the many international death row inmates on death row in Texas that defied international law and several different Supreme Court rulings. My prosecutors did not, and my lawyers did not inform the consulate for my country so they can provide proper representation. And that's not me, it's many other different death row inmates. The police believe it's this small cage that I'm in. I can touch each wall with my hands. I'm in this room, in this cage, 23 hours a day. I only get 1 hour off to go out in a bigger room every day, and that's if they let us do that. The food we get, we eat breakfast 4 a.m. in the morning. We get our lunch around 10 a.m. and our dinner around 2 p.m. I cannot call my family, talk with them. I have 5 minutes of phone calls every 6 months to call my families. Texas is the only state that only lets you have 5 minutes of phone calls for every 6 months. So I would like you to consider all this cruel and unusual punishment I'm subjected to for a crime I did not commit. My lawyer slept during the court. He showed up drunk to court once, and then the judge ruled that my lawyer was good enough to help me in my defense. So I would like to ask you to give me a new trial so I can prove my innocence.
Thank you. Although doing that, considering that it sounds like your lawyer was terrible, but she just doesn't have jurisdiction. She apologizes. So our next witness will be Scott Cobb.
The right to be called Your Honor. Actually, she lost that right definitively on September 25th of 2007. That was the date when there was a man scheduled to be executed in Texas by the name of Michael Richard. And earlier that morning, the U.S. Supreme Court had issued a stay of execution, which eventually led to the stay of all executions in the United States. And from that day, September 25th, until today, there has not been another execution in the United States. However, on September 25th, at around 6 o'clock that evening, there was an execution in Texas. It actually took place a couple hours later because it was delayed. But that was the very last execution in the United States. And that execution should not have taken place because there was the stay issued earlier in the day that would have halted that execution in Texas. And the lawyers for the man who was executed, Michael Richard's lawyers, submitted an appeal to the Texas Court of Criminal Appeals asking, based on the stay in Washington, D.C., that their client not be executed that night. The appeal went to the Texas Court of Criminal Appeals. However, the defense lawyers had a little problem using their computer equipment, which I'm sure many people here at UT have had similar problems. Right before you have to turn into an exam or a written paper to your professors, the day of it you may have a problem with your printer. That's exactly what happened to the lawyers that day. They were unable to print out their appeal, which was about 105 pages, in time, so they called the Texas Court of Criminal Appeals and spoke to the clerk and asked if they could have an extra 20 minutes in order to submit their appeal, because their client was going to be executed at 6 o'clock. So this was about 4:40 p.m. They're on the phone to the Court of Criminal Appeals, telling them that if you give us an extra 20 minutes, we can get this into you, because our client has a very strong case that his execution should be stayed because of the Supreme Court's ruling this morning. And they were told by Sharon Keller that no, you cannot submit your appeal unless you get it here by 5 o'clock, because we close at 5. So, Your Honor, and this is the Honor behind me, who still has her title, I would submit to you that the Texas death penalty system is entirely broken, and the last spoke in the wheel that broke it definitively was September 25th, when the highest judge in this state closed the court, did not allow a man to submit an appeal that probably would have stopped his execution, and allowed an execution to go through in the name of everyone here in the state of Texas, just on the basis that she wanted to go home, get out of the office, and go do her business at 5 o'clock. Now, there were other judges in the office that day, and they have since gone on record saying that they were in the office and they were prepared to accept this appeal, but they were not asked by Judge Sharon Keller. And Judge Sharon Keller, by the way, for a long time has had the nickname Judge Sharon Killer, and this nickname was given to her by actually members of the Texas legislature as sort of an inside joke, but now she has definitely earned it. So what happened was, she did not allow the appeal to be accepted. The Supreme Court turned down the appeal because there was no ruling in the Texas Court of Criminal Appeals, so their hands were tied. They could not stop it because Sharon Keller had closed the court, and the man was executed that evening.